height of her fame, Melanie was among the most photographed women in music. One of the breakout stars of Woodstock, Melanie is probably best remembered today for her 1972 #1 Brand New Key, the plaintive What Have They Done to My Song, Ma, and her own remembrance of the Woodstock Festival, Lay Down, Candles in the Rain. But she was also one of the most prolific and gifted songwriters and singers of the age, and with almost 40 albums to her name, plus compilations, the hardest decision for anyone listening in is where to start. In this very special edition of Pirate Radio Cleopatra, we are spotlighting 20 of the Melanie albums issued by Cleopatra Records since she joined the label in 2023, particularly those that highlight rare and unreleased material, unheard live performances, lost treasures, and hidden jewels. Appropriately, we began the show with what Melanie described as the first song she ever wrote, There Should Have Been a Rainbow, recorded when she was just 16, and there'll be more surprises later on in the show. I'm also thrilled to be joined by some very special guests, Melanie's children, Leilah and Beau Jarred, Cleopatra label head Brian Perera, and Melanie's manager, Dave Thompson. Plus, we will also hear from Melanie herself in conversation with Dave during 2022 and 2023, giving her own take on some of the music you will be hearing. So now, without further ado, let's welcome Leilah and Beau Jarred. As always, I am Lady Crow, and don't forget to check out Pirate Radio Cleopatra on Mixcloud, YouTube, and linked on the website.
Hello, let me introduce myself. I am Leilah. I am Melanie's daughter, firstborn, as Mom always said. Touring with Mom and traveling, performing music around the world was just such a magical experience. And I really want to share with you some of these albums that have now been released, which are just incredible. And everyone really, really needs to have a copy of these. They're just very special. Mom toured the world in 1972 as a spokesperson for UNICEF, playing shows across the planet, including Behind the Iron Curtain and Across the Far East. Made in Japan features the last show of the tour in Tokyo in November 1972. And while it isn't a professional recording, it was taped by someone in the audience. It captures how easily Mom's music could break down the language barrier and why she was such a perfect ambassador for this amazing charity. Ils ont changé ma chanson, Ils ont changé ma chanson. C'est la seule chose que je peux faire, et ce n'est pas bon, moi. Ils ont changé ma chanson.
Hi, my name is Beau, and I'm Mom's it reminds me, Melanie's son. You know, one time we were doing this awesome a reunion Woodstock concert, and Mom was at the venue, and I had to get something in the backstage or something, and I went running, and I was coming on stage, and was like, who are you? They were like, who are you? Because there was all this security. I was this little kid, and I said, I'm my mom's guitarist. And they just looked at each other like, what? And I went in. It was hilarious. But anyway, yeah, man, it's really funny. I was actually really into sports my whole life. I remember seeing Mom play, I believe it was at the Turning Point, this really great place called the Turning Point. And John's like family to us there. And I remember seeing Mom perform, and I was like, wow, I don't think I could ever do that or anything close to that, but I always, that just sparked something. And then they brought me back this Doc Watson CD, and I started really getting in. All of a sudden, it was like something just, I don't know. And then within a year from then, I started playing with Mom. Unfortunately, though, I wasn't playing with Low Country yet. Man, oh man, what an album. But I was around the studio. I got to be there and learn so much. And my gosh, that was really something to be there. And I believe the locals called it Low Country, Louisiana, I can't speak right now, Louisiana area. There was somewhere, it was called Low Country. And anyhow, that's how the name But yeah, it's, oh my gosh, it is got some amazing tracks on there. All of them are amazing. There's one track, it's called Cleopatra Gets the Gun. There was one night where it was because this place was out in the middle of nowhere, and they this car pulled up, and it was dark, and Jake, the awesome engineer, he said Cleona is his wife. His name's Cleona, and he said, Cleona, get the gun, And then Mom wrote a song right then, and it's called Cleona Get the Gun, and yeah, it was never totally finished, completed, but we got a really cool demo of it, and it's on Low Country reissue. Really hope you love it, dear ones. Love you always together in the music.
Cleona, get the gun. Cleona, get the gun. I know these things are evil, but I'm sure glad we had one. Cleona, get the gun. Cleona, get the gun. I know these things are evil, but I'm sure glad we had one. Cleona, 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 get the gun.
Hi, this is Dave Thompson, Melanie's manager and her co-conspirator as she set about planning many of the albums included here, selecting both the songs and the artwork, coming up with titles, picking this version over that one, and proving very early on in the process that she knew exactly what she wanted. I'm thrilled that we were able to deliver. So what we're doing in this show is, we call it the Top 20 Melanie Albums, but it's not a popularity poll. Rather, it's a way of looking at and talking about some of the albums that best highlight Melanie in all of her musical guises, at the same time as unveiling aspects of her career that people might have missed or not even been aware of. And to prove that, we'll be playing a short extract of one song from each album. We'd like to have played more, but you'll be listening to this show all night if we had. We begin then with number 20, the Maiden in Japan live album recorded in 1972 in Tokyo, and number 19, Low Country. Coming up next at number 18, the All Covers collection As Years Go By, with its eye-catching cover photo of the teenage Melanie. At number 17, we will hear another live album, Drury Lane 1974, and at number 16, also recorded in concert, In Focus Live 88, with Melanie accompanied by some very special guests. Of all these albums, one of the most intriguing has to be As Years Go By, the Solar Studio Sessions. Try saying that 3 times quickly with a mouthful of marbles. It's a collection of demos Melanie recorded for a company that was looking for powerful covers of hit songs that could be included in movies and TV shows. It didn't work out like that, and without her being aware, they instead released it as a new album, which completely baffled her when fans came up at shows and asked her to autograph it. But there are some fantastic performances here of some of her favourite songs, including What Have They Done to the Rain, which she first taped in the early 60s, the disco hit I Will Survive, and an unbelievable bluegrass version of Do You Really Want to Hurt Me? And you're also going to hear some amazing guitar work from Beau Jarred.
Drury Lane, 1974, is a live album recorded in one of London's most prestigious theatres, and it captures a very rare occasion when Mom shared her stage with another act, the incredible string band, who had just signed to her neighborhood record label. They only performed a handful of songs together, including one which was written just a day before the concert. But listening to their part of the show makes you wish they'd done much more together. And the rest of the gig is just magical.
I love the Incredible String Band. We actually signed them. They were on Neighborhood Records. Yep. But they broke up right in the middle of everything. It was girlfriend problems. They were all having these. Anyway, they were living in my apartment in New York City on Central Park West. The next thing we knew, they were breaking up, and we got to record the rest of it with Mike Herron. And he called himself Mike Herron's Reputation.
There is a desert where no life does move, and there is a darkness where no light does shine. Oh, nobody can take your first step out of there. You gotta do it yourself. You gotta do it yourself.
It's another live album from the Netherlands in 1988. And Mom is accompanied on stage by none other than the great Jan Ackerman of Focus. They'd only rehearsed together once for a couple of hours, but before you knew it, they were doing 15 songs. You would never known they've just rehearsed a few hours. And some of her biggest songs are included, like Beautiful People, Look What They've Done to My Song, Ma, and Lay Down. Just hearing them together, I mean, it really, it just like sends chills down your spine.
Little sisters of the sun, lit candles in the rain, fed the world on oats and raisins, candles in the rain, and they lit a fire to the soul. Who never knew he had a friend? All men can live as brothers, heard him say, candles in the rain. To be there is to remember, so I'm gonna lay it down again. I'm gonna lay it down one more time. Lay it down again. I think that men can live as brothers. Candles in the rain.
We're at number 15 now, the 2002 studio album Victim of the Moon, and that's going to be followed by number 14, Return to Carnegie Hall, recorded in 1978. Beau Jarred will reminisce on number 13, Ragamuffin, and at number 12 we have the Clearwater, Florida sessions, a jam-packed gathering of no less than 5 LPs released during the late 1980s and early 1990s. And at number 11, one of my favourite releases, the Rarities and Outtakes collection, Lay Your Hands Across the Six Strings. Victim of the Moon, which was released in 2002, is a terrific album, but it has a kind of crazy story. For a start, it wasn't even properly released. Melanie and Peter Szykarek, her husband and producer, had been in the studio recording a heap of new songs, and Melanie had a deal with a little local label that was going to release it. And then something happened right around the time the promotional CDs went out. Suddenly they weren't going to release it, but another label stepped in, by which time she'd recorded more songs and had changed her mind about a few of the ones on the original album. So now it was coming out with a few different tracks and a new title, Crazy Love. But she didn't really like that title, so when we were talking about the reissue, she suggested we revert to Victim of the Moon on one condition, that Cleopatra didn't use the original cover, which she really didn't like. She called it Victim of a Deranged Makeup Department.
I asked your mother if you were at home. She said yes, but you weren't alone. Oh, sometimes I think that you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you got something I need.
Return to Carnegie Hall completes something Mom always dreamed of, a trilogy of live albums recorded at Carnegie Hall. The first, Leftover Wine, was released in 1970. Live at Carnegie Hall came out in 1973, the year I was born. And this one, taped in 1978, should have followed. For whatever reason, it never did, but it's available now, and it's a terrific show.
It's funny because when I was at the height of doing well career-wise, I was probably the least happy because it just seemed crazy.
Yeah.
You know, I was who I was, and all of this, attention was being foisted on me, and I didn't want it. You know, I wanted just to go home and cook something.
As an ancient soul, small-time desperation is the only thing I know. But those hand-me-downs were meant to satisfy, to keep us free of fear and half alive. Those hand-me-downs.
Gosh, yeah, it's like it's really, I guess, like 2 albums in one. Ragamuffin, the first 6 songs was like a mini album. Mom and I recorded and released, I guess, around 2016. I think it was, yeah. And it was the first album of new music she released in like 6 years. And she had an unbelievable amount of songs. I mean, she's had, always will. Forget it. She was writing, continuing writing. We're still writing. She's writing from the other place, but it's the only way I can keep going. But yeah, so we had to get them out, and it wasn't really like an experiment, but trying to find a way of releasing. It was, a strange time in the music business. Still is very strange. But things were very changing, and Dad was physically not there with us. We were just, trying to make everything start to happen again. And yeah, we put it on this really cool platform, released on digital platform, Bandcamp. It was Bandcamp. That is it. And that was the first album. And then, I guess, yeah, then it well, actually, did it ever come out? And then the second, yeah, I think, yeah, it came out digitally. Yeah, that's right. First farewell tour. Mom titled it First Farewell Tour, and has new songs on it, brand new songs, unbelievable. Recorded that actually when we recorded Ragamuffin. That's right. Sorry, it's all kind of sporadic. She had twice, yeah, and it was, forget it. And I mean, it's just unbelievable. I cannot wait for y'all to hear these.
On several occasions, as Melanie went through her back catalogue, choosing which albums were going to be reissued, in what order and in what form, she would suggest we change the cover. Victim of the Moon later was one. This is another one. Ragamuffin originally had a photograph of her in a park, standing beneath a tree, and it was a great picture, but she didn't feel it captured the music very well. So we commissioned a new piece of art of a cat, and Melanie adored cats, and she even wrote a poem about them, and here she is trying to remember it and reciting it for you.
Someday I'm going to be a crazy, I'm not saying it exactly right, but it's kind of like this. Someday I'm going to be a crazy old lady living alone with 100 cats. Crazy old long-haired, gray-haired lady living alone with 100 cats. Long-haired, crazy old lady, blah, 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 living alone with 100 cats because I'm 25 and I've already got 10.
Aloha, Lucifer, give me a break. I mixed up my fingers, now I'm at Hell's Gate. Hand gesture symbols, which bathroom to use. Don't we got something better to do? What a conundrum. LMXGK. Is that fried chicken?
The Clearwater, Florida sessions is another strange one, but it's also a good illustration of how complicated Melanie's career was in the late 1980s. She had a lot of small labels around Europe interested in her, all in different countries and all wanting to release new music. But rather than pick a dozen songs and make one album, they all wanted their own track listing. And suddenly what Melanie always said was 2 very strong albums worth of material became 5, most of them with songs that had already appeared on one of the others. This wasn't so bad before the internet, when people didn't have such easy access to imported CDs. But once they did, she was constantly hearing from fans who'd bought this album and then that album and realised they already had half of it. So when it was time to reissue them, Melanie came up with the brilliant idea of blending all the songs from all 5 albums into one package, 2 CDs, adding some bonus tracks from the sessions. And suddenly you see just how much great music she was making in a very short period of time.
Where have you been,
Lay Your Hands Across the Six Strings is a compilation of music Mom recorded but never released during the early 70s, including several songs that she often performed live but never put on a record. The title song is one. She digs back into her folk repertoire for the early 60s. There's demos and rehearsal sessions, favorite covers, all manner of things. And listening to it today, it's hard to believe that these performances sat unheard for almost 50 years. They could have been huge and still are going to be.
There are some terrific performances on Lay Your Hands. So many that have become among my favourite Melanie recordings. But this is one, Somewhere in the Night, that she, well, let her tell you the story of how it came about and what she thought of it.
Clive Davis gave me a song. It was called Somewhere in the Night. And Peter brought this song home, and I thought, oh my God, I don't think so. And he said, yeah, but Rick Chertoff is coming, and he's going to work with you. It's okay, because I won't produce this record. Peter had produced everything.
Yes.
He had produced every record I ever made until he passed away. And I was thinking, I don't know, if I can do it. Anyway, Rick Chertoff came and he, came to my house. I had a piano downstairs in a rehearsal room, and he came down and we started singing the song that Clive Davis thought I should do. And now I'm trying every way possible to sing around the beat, make it my own, somehow find something in it, that I could believe in, make it true to me or something. And Rick Chertoff was not impressed. He said, can you not sing on the beat? I looked at him in horror. I mean, why would I do that? People go to, get trained in voice, do that. I don't do that. So anyway, Clive Davis was really put out that I wouldn't, cooperate with the Rick Chertoff approach to producing hit records. And he gave my version. I ended up doing a version of this song in, and actually Bon Jovi was the gopher in that studio.
Oh, really?
He went and got people coffee and, corned beef sandwiches from Carnegie. But, we recorded Somewhere in the Night, but Clive Davis, heard it. And, of course, Peter was now the producer, and we took it as far away from schmaltz as possible. And Clive Davis, was very put out by this. And he gave the song with pretty much my version. Of course, Barry Manilow sang on the beat.
Yeah.
And gave it to Barry Manilow, and Barry Manilow had a hit.
Loving so warm, moving so bright,
Right there.
closing our eyes, I'm feeling light. We'll just go on burning bright.
Maybe even one more.
Into the top 10 now, and number 10 is another Rarities collection, very aptly named Wow and Flutter. At number 9, we have the very first album Cleopatra released with Melanie at the beginning of 2024, the One Night Only Eagle Mountain House live album. And at number 8, a deep dive into the songwriting process itself, Behind the Curtain. Number 7 is another of my faves, From the Banks of the River Ephra, and at number 6, the legendary Lost 1979 album.
Oh my goodness. And yeah, Wow and Flutter. Wow. That reminds me, there's a whole thing on Wow and Flutter, but more on that later. But yeah, Mom and I, we love Wow and Flutter. The phenomena too. It's really funny because I know a lot of audio engineers back in the day would try to get rid of Wow and Flutter, and now it's like come back. It's become like this. It adds this vibe sometimes. But anyway, my gosh, another digital release. Yep, Mom, man, oh man. Well, yeah, it was totally these archives on this one, and it came out with a bunch of unreleased performances and wanted to put out there for the fans and as a gift. And I was honored. I got to remaster them, and it's just really special release, unbelievable special release. And then it was reissued on CD, really freaking awesome. And it's got a whole heap of bonus tracks that they could easily have fit on the original album. And yeah, I hope you enjoy.
Somebody, we moved a lot, and there were warehouses that, became, we didn't know what happened to the contents, and people would end up with my stuff. Every once in a while, something would come in the mail, and that was one of the things. The fan had bought these acetates. So there was, it was quite a job getting them to be listenable, but there was plenty of wow and flutter. That's what I thought. It was such a funny name. I thought that's, because it was just the way records sounded then.
All I need is the air that I breathe and to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe and to love you. All I need is the air that I breathe.
Hi, I'm Brian Perera, the head of Cleopatra Records. I never forget how exciting it was when Melanie joined the label in 2023. After listening to all the material, I was truly amazed on how many recordings she had made. It was amazing that she had done over half a century of work and how good it was. Truly incredible. Since then, we've already released over 40 amazing albums with her, and there's more on the way. But the One Night Only album, The Eagle Mountain House, was the one that really holds a special place for me since Melanie was still living and we were in touch working on this release. I was fortunate enough to work with her son, Beau Jarred, on the mastering and the production of the delivery of the master. It was amazing how it came out, and we pressed it on vinyl and CD, and we put it on all platforms for digital as well. That live show was incredible. It was raw, stripped down, just like Melanie's style, rock and roll to the finest degree. Amazing night, amazing live show, a classic.
Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday. Goodbye. Goodbye, Ruby Tuesday.
Behind the Curtain is a real treat. A lot of the music on here I'd never heard before. In fact, I don't think anybody had. Since Mom and Dad recorded them in the mid-70s, either in the studio or at home, usually on Dad's cassette player in the corner, it's Mom working out new songs or trying out new arrangements. And when our manager, Dave, first suggested releasing them, she was very uncertain because they are so intimate. And it was that intimacy that did change her mind. The chance to let people in to hear her actually working on songs rather than simply singing and playing on them is very magical and special.
Where we met, that's a day I won't forget.
Talking with Melanie as we were planning this series of reissues and new releases, I was surprised that one of her regrets was that she had never been properly bootlegged. Bootlegs were huge in the early mid-70s, and largely despised by the artists who were being bootlegged. You know, they weren't seeing money, they had no control, etc., etc. And Melanie admitted she did not like her unreleased material appearing online. She didn't like it being traded on cassette and CD, recordable CD, etc. So she was very split on this, but at the same time, you know, just one bootleg, you know, illegally taped concert, pressed onto vinyl, slipped into a plain white sleeve with photocopied art gummed to the front, given a bizarre title and sold through the underground network of mum and pop stores that once proliferated. She really wished someone had done that. So we did. From the Banks of the River Effra, Crystal Palace, 1972, it was recorded at the Crystal Palace Garden Party in London and released with its own bootleg-style art insert, a white label, and a suitably obscure title. The River Effra is one of London's so-called lost rivers, flowing through the area now occupied by the Crystal Palace site. It's not the full show, and the fidelity isn't perfect either, so it sounds like a bootleg as well as looking like one. In other words, it's exactly what Melanie wanted.
I've been celebrating way too long and happy turn much too wild. Still feel hungry, God, I want to give and bring the living back hell bring the God. Bring the living back hell. Still feel hungry, God, I want to give and bring the living back.
Mom's legendary Lost 1979 album. It was recorded in Florida in 1979. It really is one of her very best. So many of the songs on it are now considered, classics. In fact, both me and my sister Jordy, we sing them all the time, still today. And it's just, there's so many.
When Melanie first emerged in the late 1960s, a lot of people were surprised to discover that she was an American. Her musical style and performance had a very European feel to it. And, as we all know, before she even went to Woodstock, before she had even heard of Woodstock, she had already toured Europe, or France anyway, and the UK, and was having a modicum of success over there. She was on the John Peel show in Britain, which is always a hallmark of underground respectability at the time. And she continued writing songs in that vein. Of course she did. It's how she wrote. And one of the greatest did turn up on what we now call the Lost 1979 album. It's called The Champagne Song, and it is so 1930s Berlin cabaret. I just had to ask her about it.
I was loving the Kurt Weill, all of that three-penny opera.
Yes.
La Chilena. I loved that music, and again, style sometimes
I wonder if
going out to imitate, and then you get it wrong.
Fragile is the spirit when the body walks into the world like a stone wall. Fragile and determined and a little bit mad. When I leave my body, I am never coming back. I'll just evaporate into thin air, and the folks will breathe me out. That's just a line. I know I will return, 'cause in the game I play, the person never learns. The person could get worse. The person could get burned.
Okay, it's time for the top 5, but remember, again, this is not a popularity contest. Almost any of the albums we've spotlighted could have been in the top 5, and many of the ones that we've not even mentioned could have been there as well. In fact, if you want to see all the others, go to the Cleopatra website, cleorex.com, and download your own free copy of Deluxe Editions, a 60-page catalogue of all the albums released so far by both Cleopatra Records and Easy Action Records, plus details of a few that are still to come. But now the top 5. At number 5 we have the Magic Bus Sessions from 1972. At number 4, one of the earliest Melanie live performances we know of, Take Me Home, recorded at the Troubadour in LA in 1969. Number 3 is Lullabies from Heaven, Melanie's children's album released this year, but containing music recorded as long ago as 1963. Number 2 is Gathered In, bringing together outtakes from her most successful album ever, 1971's Gather Me. And at number 1, a first ever release for Ace of Diamonds, a musical stage show conceived and co-written by Melanie, which came so close to Broadway you can almost smell the grease paint. A live 1972 radio broadcast, it took more than 50 years for the tapes that comprised the Magic Bus Sessions to resurface. Melanie was thrilled by their discovery. She remembered the interview that accompanied the songs. She remembered the songs. She was so happy to see this released. The Cleopatra version is different to that was previously released in that the interview material was removed at Melanie's suggestion. She basically said people don't want to have to listen to me yammering on between songs every time they play the record. And yeah, she was right. Spoken word on album can become a little monotonous once you've heard it 2 or 3 times. Here we just have the songs and what performances they are. She is so on form tonight, confident, calm, and having a great time. And here she is talking about it herself.
Something, I don't know, something really magic about it. Even my voice, it was so, I don't know, it had like as Doug calls it, a frequency.
Now you got the feeling you're great, 'cause we shared a few looks and I made one mistake. But it could have been anyone. I was looking for that kind of fun, and you were right there. In love all is fair, but don't think that I care. Now you got a new friend, I know, so I'm packing my things and I'm going to go. Please don't make a scene, don't cry. You can't stop me if you try. I love being free, it's the best way to be. Is she as pretty as me, huh? 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 Is she as pretty as me, huh?
Another one, a real find. A recording of Mom at the Troubadour in LA in spring of 1969. Just 4 months before she appeared at Woodstock. It's not the whole show, unfortunately. That would be just so incredibly amazing. But it's fascinating to listen to Mom on the very eve that she became a superstar.
Think it's low 'cause you got a secret for me that I know not how to hang on to. you keep me from drowning in my down pillow. Oh, please, I need help, 'cause my deep down is low.
Here we are with Goldie, and she is on. This is our first time being on an album, actually. Mom's, what is it? Lullabies from Heaven. Yeah, it was heaven and hell working on that, but we love you guys, and it's Layla, come on. And yeah, Jordy's on it, Layla's on it, the whole family's on it. Thank you, Dave Thompson. We worked on it together. Love you, brother. And the awesome people at Cleopatra, and you beautiful people. You helped us through it all, and there's a lot coming. Thank you. And Mom still has her Patreon, so definitely check that out. It helps
I've been on there often, and I'd love to hear from you. So please.
And I'm sorry, I'm shaking the phone. My shoulder is doing something weird. Okay, I love you guys. We'll see you soon.
Bye.
We love you, Mom. Always together in music.
And I heard a kind of something, and I gave a sort of shout. A Beetlehouse and Alexander Beetle coming out. It was Alexander Beetle, I'm as certain as can be, and he had a kind of look as though thought it might be me. And he had a kind of look as though he thought he ought to say, I'm really very sorry that I...
Melanie's 1971 album Gather Me is probably her best loved and certainly her most successful LP. Of course, it included the hit Brand New Key, and it went gold. It was huge, and you still see it around in second-hand shops, probably more than any of her other records. Is that a recommendation? Yes, it is, isn't it? People loved it enough that they wanted to share it when they got rid of their record collection. I don't know. Anyway, Gathered In, the 1971 Gather Me sessions, goes back to some of Melanie's earliest recordings of the LP's songs, in the order that she originally intended the album to be. In the booklet accompanying the CD, you'll see her handwritten track listing scribbled down on the back of an envelope. There were also some live recordings included from shows she played immediately around the album's release, including her historic performance at the DeMille Theatre in New York, where she became the first rock star ever to play a concert on Broadway. First ever release on Melanie's own label, Neighborhood, fulfilling her long-held dream of being a wholly independent artist. Of course, events didn't always transpire as she intended, but here she is discussing the importance of being indie.
Right. You know, I've been through every circumstance, and I kind of like being a person who's malleable and adaptable.
Yeah.
And having the kind of career I had with no major machine behind me. I mean, I have had the moments where major machines were behind me, but then we quickly kind of dodged out of that scene.
I say you always seem to escape the machine.
Yeah.
Which is nice.
I have definitely. And that has its, good moments and very bad moments. But at least you're not owned.
Some say I got devil. Some say I got angel. Well, I'm just a girl in trouble. I don't think I'm in danger. Don't think I'm in danger. No, I know I'm not in danger.
I mean, Mom wasn't only a singer and songwriter. She was a writer, an actress too. And this last album, Ace of Diamonds, allows her to show all her skills. It was a musical about a Western hero, Calamity Jane's daughter, Janie. And this album collects all the songs Mom wrote for it, plus some of the dialogue from the show. Listening to it now, it could still be a Broadway hit. I mean, a mega hit. I'm really glad you guys took the time and hear me here today. And I hope you go out and get these albums because there's just something so special about each and every one of them. And just keeping Mom's legacy alive and going, and all these wonderful songs given to you beautiful people. And Mom was such an extraordinary woman, and these songs on all these albums are just incredible with so much meaning and depth. Again, thank you so much. Always together in the music. Leilah.